a long-awaited easy and pity system, a ton of new content, and 2 new LRs with a brand new mechanic. Stay tuned while we uncover one of Dokkan's greatest anniversaries. The month of January started with the EZA of Strength Gogeta, one of the most anticipated EZAs in Dokkan's history. So let's see if he lived up to the hype. Strength Super Gogeta now led all types for 3 key and 77% HP attack and defense, which was definitely a good leader skill for like Dokkan Battlefield or just to run a fun team with all of the OG EZAs, but nothing really meta breaking. He now lowered attack and defense on Super, like his in counterpart, which was very good in SBR, went from a flat stat buff of 7000 attack to 77% attack and defense, while still being effective against all types. And he also now gained an additional 7% attack per Rainbow Key Spheres obtained, a buff that unfortunately wasn't calculated separately, so it could only give him at most an additional 35% attack. Like, this was still decent with his enormous 20,000 base post-EZA attack stat rainbowed, but nothing crazy. I remember that when his EZA details were revealed, people were wondering if he was actually better than in Super Gogeta offensively, and some guy actually did the math, and Strength Gogeta with one dupe had a higher APT than a rainbowed in Super Gogeta, since his base stats were just so much higher than his in counterpart. Like, he not only had more defense but also more HP, something that could really help you in SVR, to not have your team get one-shotted by one of those enemies super attack. And yeah, Strength Super Gogeta was a very good unit, not as crazy as in Janemba, at least in my opinion, but still very decent. I wish I could say the same thing about AGL Kid Vu's sub EZA. That guy was just not great. He now greatly lowered defense on Super and recovered 14% HP at the start of turn, which I guess was okay, but for some reason they decided to make him a nuker. Like, what? This just made no sense. Most of his teams had like no rainbow orb changers, and he couldn't orb change himself, so I have no idea what they were thinking. This is probably one of the worst EZAs in Dokkan history. Like, you could still use him in Battlefield or like Extreme AGL Super Rad Road, but he wasn't very consistent as a nuker, so he was like either complete garbage or decent at best, depending on the amount of key spheres you managed to pick up with him. They also at the same time released a new story event, and AGL Kid Goku could now be Dokkan Awakened into a TUR. His awakening had basically nothing new, they just bumped his leader skill buff and gave him an additional 10% attack per Rainbow Key Spheres obtained. So we were really just waiting for his LR Awakening. Fun fact about him, but this guy's icon before release featured Krillin, which was a mistake since Krillin wasn't a part of the card, just the card art. This new story event also came with a new currency that you could exchange for some various rewards in the Baba shop. The Kais and story event keys were honestly the only thing I remember farming. A couple of days later and the update 4.2.0 was out. It just added some UI changes, like they moved some of the buttons in the character's details tab and made things look a little bit cleaner and easier to navigate. The next day and it was time for some new Peppy Girl's awakenings. Tech Bula was pretty cracked. She now massively stacked attack on Super, the first unit to be able to do that, and I remember people thinking that this was going to be absolutely crazy, but unfortunately it was pretty disappointing in game. Not sure exactly why, but her attack stacking was pretty slow, even though she massively stacked attack. But it didn't really matter since the rest of her kit was amazing. She was a super type unit given 3 key and 40% attack to all allies, and had 30% dodge chance per Peppy Girl's category ally on the team, up to 60%. So yeah, she had a 60% dodge chance with just one other Peppy Girl's category ally on the team, which was very good with her support. Like, support type units who had some sort of defensive mechanic were just so good at the time. Strength Chi-Chi just got more stats. Like, instead of having 80% attack at the start of turn, she now had 100% attack, and instead of giving Peppy Girl's units 2 key and 100% defense, she now gave them 3 key and 120% defense. So yeah, she was already good as an SSR with her seal on Super and that insane support type buff, so she was just even better now. Another day later and we got some V-Jump leaks, showing us the 4th year anniversary trophy card. And as most people predicted, yeah, it was a Super Saiyan 4 Goku. But the crazy thing here is that the anniversary LR's card arts got leaked around the same time, but everyone thought that they were fake, and nobody took those leaks seriously, me included. I just thought that they were fan-made. The next week and it was already time for the 4th year anniversary countdown celebration. The hints were pretty obvious with that one, like we knew for sure that the anniversary was going to be themed around the Super Saiyan 4s in some shape or form. Okay, maybe we couldn't know for sure because of what they did with the 3rd year anniversary, but look, it was the 4th year anniversary. It was safe to assume that the anniversary was going to feature at least one Super Saiyan 4 character. Okay, it could have just been the anniversary trophy card, but there was just no way they were going to trick us 2 years in a row, you know? And yeah, they were surprisingly generous with the tickets that year. 5 tickets every day for 7 days. This was pretty huge and set a pretty good tone for that upcoming anniversary. They then dropped a world tournament in the middle of the countdown celebration. That world tournament was kind of special because if you didn't know, this was the world tournament at the end of Z where Goku fought Oob, so they brought back the end of Z SR Goku and gave him a Dokkan Awakening. Int End of Z Goku was actually a pretty cool card. I remember really liking this card art at the time, and he was also a support type unit, which was exactly what we wanted French Play units to be at the time. But his stats were pretty low, so I genuinely don't think I've ever used him. He was more so just a trophy card, and I'm pretty sure this was the last time that they brought him back. But I wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back in a future anniversary, just like what they did during the 10th year anniversary. As for the World Tournament reward card, from what I remember, Pen was literally dead on arrival. Like literally. Like sure, she sealed on super, had 80% attack and a medium chance to dodge at start of turn, but the problem was that she performed a critical hit as the first attacker in her turn, but lost all of her attack after receiving an attack. So she was essentially just a coin flip with an okay reward and a horrible drawback. 2 days later, and they teased the anniversary units. A new Super Saiyan 4 Goku and a new Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta were on the way. The 4th year anniversary was officially here, and let me tell you, that anniversary was just so much better than the previous one. Not only were the login bonus rewards and missions much better, like bro, that anniversary gave you 4 stones every day for the entire anniversary. Like 4 stones every day was just crazy. And the first login also gave you 44 stones and a god stone, a pool that they actually improved for the anniversary. And that anniversary just came with so much content. They added strength per Gogeta into the redstone, which was very good. He was probably the second Dokkan Fest easier you wanted to rainbow after Injanemba. Well, at least that's who I rainbowed after Injanemba. But maybe that's just because it was Super Gogeta too, so I was a little bit biased. But he was definitely very good. They also added Blue Vegeta and Rose into the purple stone, which made us speculate at the time that their easiest were probably coming next after the Gods Leaders. As for the new events, we had a special Hercule event that you could clear once a day to get Zenny and a 4th year anniversary ticket. And talking about the 4th year anniversary ticket summon banner, it was pretty cracked for a free banner. It had most of the recent banner units, like Int Hercule, who literally came 2 months ago and who was an absolute beast of a unit, and the new ones from the Broly movie were unfeatured on the banner, as well as all of the non-Dokkan Fest LRs, up to the most recent one, so Strength, Trunks and Might. I actually pulled my first copy of LR physical cell from that banner, so this wasn't an uncommon thing to see. The new story event let you fully farm a new free-to-play Giru, a unit that was actually pretty good at the time. He sealed on super, had Tsuki and 60% attacking defense with a hybrid Saiyan category on the team, something that wasn't difficult to do, and gave Dragon Ball Seekers category allies Tsuki and 30% attacking defense, which was pretty good, especially since that category was pretty free-to-play friendly. They then revamped the B-Pen event, and for the duration of the campaign, you could clear it once a day instead of once a week, giving you new medals that you could then use to awaken her into an LR, a phenomenal LR. LR B-Pen was just crazy, absolutely crazy. She could stun on both her 12 and 18 key super attacks, could super early, she only needed 9 key to launch her 12 key super attack and 15 key to launch her 18 key super attack, recovered 33% of the damage she dealt as HP, and had a 50% chance of having 55% damage reduction at the start of turn. Like she was just built for SBR with that stun chance, damage reduction and healing. Healing that was actually insane at the time. So she was already pretty much the best free-to-play unit in the game for SBR. But then they gave her the newly introduced active skill mechanic, which could be activated starting from the 3rd turn from the start of battle, and gave all allies 33% attack for 1 turn. Above that was actually calculated separately, so it was just so insane. I remember that for like a year straight, all of the Dokkan showcases on YouTube were using B-Pen whenever they could to just see how far they could juice up the showcased unit. I also remember that active skill being very strong on units that had a very big attack stat at the start of turn. Like for example, full power percent for Goku, who at full HP had 170% attack at the start of turn. So that active skill on him just made him hit so damn hard, like it was crazy. As for the new trophy card, physical percent for Goku was actually not bad. He was a sub leader for a pure Saiyans category, which definitely could help if you're a new player. Raised his attack by 50% for 4 turns on super, had 44% attacking defense at the start of turn, an additional 44% attack when attacking, and gave pure Saiyans category allies 44% defense. Couple that with his decent link set, and yeah, he was definitely not bad. But I remember most players just using him as SA fodder for the new LR percent for Goku. The new ticket banner also came with a new SR Trunks, who was actually pretty good for an SR. He greatly raised his defense on super for 1 turn, and gave 2 key and 30% attack and defense to all allies. Like, he had a phenomenal base kit, so people thought that he was maybe going to awaken from one of the upcoming Dokkan events, just like SR AGL Shenron or SR Physical GT Super Saiyan Goku. If he wasn't an SR with horrendous stats, this guy could have definitely been a decent unit. As for the coin shop, I'm pretty sure this is the first anniversary coin shop to bring back the past anniversaries trophy cards, and also the first one to feature potential orbs. So yeah, you already know what the priority was here. The Kais and the potential orbs. That's literally all I bought from the coin shop during that anniversary. We also had the 11th Dokkan battlefield the same day. The only notable change here is that they upped the number of units you were able to bring into the battlefield to 112, which was good, but it didn't really help out new players since they didn't have a lot of units anyways. I personally remember that change not really doing much for me at the time since I didn't have enough Kais and potential orbs to invest into 112 units anyways. The next day and the new banners were out with so many new awakenings. The new LR Super Saiyan 4s were phenomenal units. Super Saiyan 4 Goku introduced the Goku's family category into the game and led it for 3 key, 170% HP and attack and 130% defense. That new category was absolutely phenomenal since it featured any character from Goku's family, meaning every Goku, Gohan, Goten, Chi-Chi and Pan. Like, this was literally half of the game. That category was just as big as the previous category, and it had the new LR B-Pen, which was just the best free-to-play unit in the game, at least for SBR. And unlike Vegeta, Goku had the full power variant. So on his team, you could have both LR Super Saiyan 4 Gokus linked with another Super Saiyan 4 character. So that category was seen by many players at the time as the new best category in the game. He then was a sub-leader for the Super AGL type. They did it for 3 key and 120% HP attack and defense, which was also pretty good since it meant you could run AGL Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta on his team, who was still a very good card that linked pretty well with Goku. Goku then massively raised defense on his 12 key and massively raised attack and defense on his 18 key super, which was huge. Like, those buffs were insane to have on an LR, and since he massively raised defense on his 12 key, he was pretty much invincible post super if you were lucky enough to have him launch his hidden potential system additional super attack. He then had 80% attack at the start of turn and 20% defense at the start of every turn, up to 80%. Buffs that I remember at first glance looked very disappointing, but coupled with his massive buffs on super were actually insane in game. But what really made him crazy was that additional 2 key he gained per rainbow key spheres or same type orb key spheres obtained. Like, it was so easy and effortless to get his 18 key super attack, something that was very hard to do on most LRs at the time. And add the fact that he had the typical Super Saiyan 4 gimmick, meaning he had a 30% chance of dodging and countering enemies super attacks. Yeah, he was insane. And I remember people debating whether he was better than LR Goku and Frieza, but as soon as he was in game and we saw how OP the active skill mechanic was, yeah, the answer was pretty clear. Him and Vegeta came with the new active skill mechanic, and it basically gave them a free attack that they could launch starting from the 4th turn from the start of battle, an attack that did a significant amount of damage at the time. So this was insane in SBR. Like, most often than not, the fight wasn't over by turn 4, so this ability was a lifesaver there. It could save you an item or honestly just the whole run. Strength percent for Vegeta led and introduced the Vegeta's family category into the game. He led it for 130% HP and 170% attack and defense, which was seen by most people at the time as the better leader skill buff. I remember someone making the calculations, and HP was apparently less valuable than defense when it came to tanking enemy super attacks. But the problem is that the Vegeta's family category was just so much worse than Goku's family. Like, it was literally a third of the size of Goku's category. Like, it was still good, but just nowhere near as good as Goku's category. He then also led the super strength type for 3 key and 130% HP attack and defense, which was very good, since just like Goku, you could use his 2nd year anniversary counterpart, Strength percent for Goku, who also linked pretty well with Vegeta. Strength percent for Vegeta then massively raised attack on his 12 key, and just like Goku, massively raised his attack and defense on his 18 key, which was just as good as Goku. It's just that the massively raising attack on his 12 key kind of sucked, because of how defense and attack on super are calculated. Like, the attack buff is just added to his SA multiplier, while defense on super is straight up multiplying your start of turn defense, which is way more impactful stat wise. But that wasn't it. Vegeta had 80% defense at the start of turn and 20% attack at the start of each turn, up to 80%, which was way worse than Goku's. Like, Vegeta was barely breaking the 2 million mark on his first appearance on his 18 key super attack, while Goku was easily launching like 3-4 million plus super attacks. And sure, maybe Vegeta was better defensively, but Goku still had the upper hand post super if he was able to double super. So Vegeta really got shafted here. But with his additional key per key spheres obtained, super attack counter, and active skill, he was still for sure the second best unit in the game. Like, all of those things were just too valuable in SVR. Talking about SVR, both the LR SSJ4s were on the Shadow Dragon Saga category, which was huge, since that category was so limited at the time. Like, the Shadow Dragon Saga SVR stage wasn't hard, it's just that you had legit no other options. So having more options was just so good. Also, if you're wondering why the 18 key super attacks of the LR SSJ4s are so familiar, it's because they're literally just the ones from the Battlefield Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Vegeta. And how, you may ask? Well, according to the French leakers, the LR SSJ4s were actually made very close to the 3rd year anniversary, possibly even before. And their original passives were legit just 80% attack for Goku and 80% defense for Vegeta, with their whole gimmick just being them getting most of their buffs on Super. Luckily, the devs realized that they were too weak and buffed them right before the release. Like, just imagine if they actually released them with their original passives. They would have easily been the worst anniversary units in Dokkan history, like especially Vegeta. Like, just imagine a new LR not even being able to break the 1 million mark on Super. It would have been an absolute disaster. Now, as for the billion awakenings that came with the LR SSJ4s, Tech Kaioken Goku was now a sub-leader for the Goku's family, for 3 key and 120% HP attack and defense, while also sub-leading the Tech type for 3 key and 90% HP attack and defense. That leader skill was actually phenomenal for Dokkan Battlefield, and even for the OG SVR stages. He then stacked attack and defense on Super, but instead of it being a 30% stack, it was actually a 20% stack, which was way worse than the usual attack and defense stacking he had beforehand. Like, this guy stacked pretty slowly, and I never really understood why until I just saw that, so it did actually have an impact on him, but he was still good. He had 1 key at the start of each turn, and 60% defense when facing a Vegeta's family category enemy, 90% attack and defense on Super, and 6 key and 60% defense when below 60% HP. So yeah, he was definitely good in Battlefield, and the future legendary Goku event. Physical Vegeta had the same leader skill as Kaioken Goku, just for the Vegeta's family category and physical type. Then he stacked attack and defense on Super just like Goku, had 1 key at the start of turn, and 60% attack when facing a Goku's family category enemy, plus an additional 90% attack and defense on Super, and 6 key and 60% defense when below 60% HP. I actually remember this card being pretty good in SVR. You just needed to build him full additional and let him stack a little. But that was mainly because the extreme physical type didn't have many good options. But anyways, he was phenomenal in the legendary Goku event once that was out. AGL Super Saiyan 2 Goku had the same leader skill as Kaioken Goku, but just let the AGL type instead of the Tech type. So obviously a very good leader skill for Battlefield. He then greatly raised his defense on Super for 1 turn, changed strength key spheres to AGL, gained 17% attack and 7% defense per key spheres obtained, and an additional 3% attack and defense per key spheres obtained when facing a Vegeta's family category enemy. So with a couple of key spheres, he was actually dishing out some decent numbers, while being pretty good defensively post Super. But what made him very useful was the fact that he recovered 7,777 HP per key spheres obtained. This was, like I already explained, so useful. It's what made him good as an SSR, and what kept him good as a TUR. Strength Majin Vegeta had the same leader skill as Physical Vegeta, but led the Strength type instead of the Physical type. So like I said for the 4th time, very good in Battlefield. Like, those leader skill buffs were just so good for Battlefield. I just have to make it clear. He then greatly raised attack for 1 turn on Super, changed AGL key spheres to Strength, gained 17% attack and defense per key spheres obtained, so he gained more defense than Goku, and an additional 3% attack and defense per key spheres obtained when facing a Goku's family category enemy. Like, that guy was pretty good on release. The only problem is that since he lacked utility, he aged out faster than Goku. Like, the guy was just stats. But yeah, on release, like I said, he was very good, especially on Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta's team. AGL Super Saiyan GT Trunks was also pretty decent. He greatly raised his defense for 1 turn on Super, gained an additional key per rainbow key spheres obtained, 20% attack and 10% defense per key spheres obtained, and an additional 7% attack per rainbow key spheres obtained. So he was a nuker who gained a decent amount of stats per key spheres obtained. But he didn't make his own orbs, like the Super Saiyan 2 Goku or Vegeta, so he wasn't as good as them. GT Super Saiyan 2 Goku was very solid from what I remember. He stacked attack on Super, gained 3 key and 100% attack when his key was 9 or more, meaning he could Super at 9 key, and gained 120% defense and 40% crit chance for 4 turns after performing a super attack. Above that unfortunately didn't stack, but we weren't sure on release, so at first glance we thought that this guy was absolutely cracked. Like, he was still good, just not as good as we thought. He was one of the very few units in the game that you could comfortably build full additionals, so he was at least fun to use. We also got the easy of the Free Play Goku Jr. the same day. He led the Dragon Ball Seekers category for 3 key and 77% HP attack and defense, and just like I said multiple times, this was one of the best Free Play category in the game, so this was very good. He then raised his defense by 30% for 1 turn on Super, had 2 key at the start of turn, 60% attack on Super, and had a 70% chance of gaining an additional 60% attack and defense on Super. So this guy was a phenomenal Free Play unit. His easy event was pretty easy too. He was weak to Vegeta's family category units, so you had plenty of options, and even then you could just brute force it with a monophysical team. Like, those Free Play units easies were way easier than regular easies. And the crazy part is that they gave the same amount of rewards as regular easiest, at least this time around. Now as for the new banners, those were the first banners to feature the new coin mechanic, which was essentially Dokkan's first pity system. Crazy to think that it took them 4 years to have some sort of pity, but yeah, this was very hype. Each banner gave you a coin for every 5 Dragonstones spent, and you could then exchange 500 coins for a copy of a Dokkan Fest LR, 400 coins for a category leader, 200 coins for a Neo Gods leader, and 150 coins for a Gods leader. You unfortunately couldn't buy the new units right away, you had to wait for their second appearance, which I remember people being mad about, because it meant that even if you did have those 500 coins, you couldn't buy them right away. You had to wait for their next appearance, which was going to be during Tanabata, so 6 months later. But as a global player, knowing that the coins were coming was huge, since we could just stack up our stones to really make the most out of them with the new pity system. But yeah, Goku's banner featured AGL transforming Goku, Strength Jiren, Tech Kaiken Goku, AGL Super Saiyan 2 Angel Goku, Int Super Vegito, Int UI Goku, Int Angel Golden Frieza, Strength Super Saiyan 4 Goku, and Physical GT Super Saiyan 2 Goku. So definitely not the craziest anniversary banner, especially considering the fact that it featured 3 regular banner units, but it was still good. Like Transforming Goku, Jiren Super Vegito, and Int UI Goku were still phenomenal SBR units, and Int Angel Golden Frieza still held some value due to AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku's EZA, an EZA that was still hard a year later, as crazy as it might sound. And Strength Super Saiyan 4 Goku kind of got a revival on Strength Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta's team, so he was definitely still very good if you're able to pull him. Vegeta's banner featured Tech Transforming Frieza, MVP 17, AGL Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta, AGL Turles, Physical Vegeta, Strength Majin Vegeta, Physical Gogeta, AGL Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, and AGL GT Super Saiyan Trunks. Like, it was a very decent banner, and arguably more valuable than Goku's, at least from what I remember. I didn't have most of the featured units on Vegeta's banner, while I had pretty much everyone on Goku's banner. And units like MVP 17, AGL Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta, and AGL Turles were just so valuable for obvious reasons, and weren't featured on many banners, so most players didn't have them. And Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta's team was now better than ever, since you could run both the new LRs on his team and link them up together. Like, that was for sure one of the best rotations in the game. They were so crazy together. But both banners were very good and definitely must summons. The new banners got top grades in the same day, not surprising at all. The Super Saiyan 4s were very hyped, so they gave everyone 30 stones, 2000 AGL and strength type potential orbs, 44 story keys, 4 diamond statues, and 40 4th year anniversary coins. Like, those rewards were pretty good. But what's crazy is that the game hit top grossing on both stores a couple of hours later, so they gave out even more top grossing rewards that same day. 100 dragon stones and 3000 potential orbs of each type. In the following days, they re-released the support type banners, I guess to showcase the new blue coin, which for a very long time only had one use, and it was to get Kais, since this would have been the perfect time to make the support type units available with blue coins, but I don't know what they were thinking. They then announced an anniversary livestream, which was very hype. Like, this was the first time they were going to do something like that. I remember tuning into the livestream 2 days later, and bro, this was just so hype at the time. Like, I remember them announcing like a bunch of stuff, but the biggest thing here was that the anniversary was going to have a part 2 banner, and that the banner was going to feature 2 new LRs instead of just 1. So this was a new banner format. The LRs weren't very hype though, but I remember them showing the animations of the GT trio, and they looked so good at the time, so it didn't matter, but this was just so hype. The next day, and it was time for the second part of the anniversary, which came with a bunch of new events. Like, that anniversary just had so much more content than anything we had ever seen before. Like, there was just so much to do, it was crazy. And the part 2 missions were also pretty cracked. Like, the amount of stones they gave was also insane for the time. To start off, we had a new Shenron event that came with its own campaign, where we had to clear each stage of that event under special conditions every day to collect all 7 Dragon Balls, and each Dragon Ball gave 4 stones. So in total, that event gave 28 stones, which was pretty good. And the conditions weren't anything crazy. Like, I remember that one of them was clearing a stage with a character of each type on your team, so a pretty easy thing to do. We then had another new story event, where we could fully farm a new Vegeta Jr. Free to Play card, a card that got his EZA the very same day. An EZA event that was very easy from what I remember. He was weak to Goku's family category units, so even easier than Goku Jr.'s EZA, and that EZA too gave the same amount of rewards as a regular EZA. So this was just so huge. So many stones, Kais, and potential orbs. This genuinely felt like Christmas came early at the time. time. We weren't used to like this many rewards in such like a short span of time. And the new Super Saiyan Vegeta Jr. was a pretty good free to play card. He was a sub leader for the Hybrid Saiyans category, so very good. Then raised his defense by 30% for one turn on Super, had 60% attacking defense at the start of turn, and gained an additional 2 ki and 50% attack for 5 turns after receiving an attack. A buff that was actually calculated separately, for a total boost of 140% attack. So yeah, this guy was good. But if all of that wasn't crazy enough, they gave us a special GT battlefield. So we got 2 battlefields in the span of 2 weeks, which was just insane. And from what I remember, that battlefield was actually easier than the regular battlefields, which I guess only made sense. The anniversary was the time where they got the most amount of new players, so they had to make something easier for them. But yeah, the new battlefield came with a new battlefield LR. LR Oob was pretty good. He led the Resurrected Warriors category for 3 ki and 100% HP attack and defense, so we finally got a free-to-play alternative leader to beat that AGL's percentage Goku's easy. He then lowered attack on both his 12 and 18 ki supers, which was very good in SBR and Battlefield. Then he raised his ki by up to 6 and attack and defense by up to 90%. The more HP he had, the greater the boosts, so with his LR stats this was already looking pretty good, but then he confused with Mr. Boo when below 40% HP. Transformed, he now greatly lowered attack on his 18 ki super, so even better. Healed 40% HP once only, had 100% attack and defense at the start of turn, was a Rainbow Orb changer, and gained an additional 2 ki per Rainbow Ki spheres obtained. So yeah, he was definitely very good transformed. But what really made that guy valuable was the healing. This was so clutch in SBR, Battlefield, or even Easy Is. Like, that healing was just so useful. The only problem is that the guy was just so damn expensive. One copy costed 250,000 Battlefield memories. 250,000. This was just insane. This was 100,000 more than a copy of LR Int Middle Cooler, but I guess he was worth it. 4 days later and the new top legendary summon banner was out. It featured 2 new LRs, who were both very good. The LR GT Trio were the first official leaders for the Dragon Ball Stickers category, leading it for 4 ki and 170% HP attack and defense, an insane leader skill buff for the time, while also leading the Super Int type for 4 ki and 100% HP attack and defense. That leader skill was just so good at the time for free-to-play players, because like I already said, the Dragon Ball Stickers category was a very free-to-play friendly category. Like, the best units on that team were mostly free-to-play units, so you just needed to pull the LR and you could run the best version of that team just with free-to-play units. They then raised their defense by 33% for 1 turn on their 12 ki and 3 turns on their 18 ki, so very good. They then had 77% attack and defense when attacking with 12 ki or more, and an additional 77% attack when attacking with 18 ki or more, so they were like a more defensive but less offensive version of LR Goku and Frieza. But on top of all of that, they had 1 ki per Dragon Ball Seekers category around the team, meaning that on a full Dragon Ball Seekers team, they had 7 ki at the start of turn, and since they had so many ki links, this was just insane. They were pretty much always at 24 ki from what I remember. It was insane. And now that I think about it, this was one of the only summonable LR where having Shattering the Limit instead of Fierce Battle wasn't actually a shaft, because their team was essentially filled with free-to-play units, so them having the Shattering the Limit key link instead of Fierce Battle was very good. They linked so well with all of the free-to-play units we got that anniversary, so this was definitely an LR you wanted if you were a free-to-play player. AGL LR Super Baby 2 was an SBR beast. He introduced the Artificial Life Forms category into the game, a category that was actually pretty good. It had most of the androids, boos, and middle coolers, but unfortunately didn't feature MVP 17, since he wasn't artificially created, he was just artificially modified. But the category was still very good, and could only get better with time. Baby also led the Extreme AGL type for 4 ki and 100% HP attack and defense, which was huge, because this was one of the weakest type in the game, and many players were still struggling to beat the Extreme AGL Super Battle stage at the time. He then lowered attack on both his 12 and 18 ki supers, which was very good. He then had 3 ki and 100% attack and defense at the start of turn, gained an additional 3 ki and 50% attack when facing a Pure Saiyans category enemy, and an additional 3 ki and 50% attack when facing a Hybrid Saiyan category enemy. The buffs weren't calculated separately unfortunately, but they were still very good, especially on an LR. And when you consider the fact that those categories combined covered pretty much half of the game, yeah, he was looking good. But then he also had a 50% chance of turning into a giant ape when below 40% HP. A giant ape transformation that was actually pretty cracked for a time. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first giant ape transformation to have some sort of passive, and a pretty good one. Like, he had Gohan's ki passive, meaning he got an additional ki per ki sphere obtained. Something that was huge, because one of the biggest issues of these giant ape transformations was that they could struggle for ki, but not this guy. And he was hitting pretty hard too, being the first giant ape LR and all. Like, this transformation was just so clutch in SBR, Battlefield, and Easy Is, and it gave that guy so much value. Fun fact, but at first this guy could only transform into a giant ape starting from the 4th turn from the start of battle, and went below 50% HP. But JP players complained, so they changed it to just any time when below 40% HP, which was a way better condition, especially in SBR, where you could literally get his giant ape transformation out turn 1 if you entered a new fight below 40% HP, which wasn't an unusual thing in SBR. The biggest problem of of this guy at the time was the fact that he didn't really have a good linking partner. Like, he had the same name as the in Super BB2, so they couldn't be run together. So his best linking partner was actually his own TUR, since he had a different name and wasn't a bad card at all. Like, his TUR was very good. I remember Chud going crazy during that anniversary and rainbowing not only the LR but also the TUR of Super BB2. That was just crazy. Like, the TUR was good, but not that good. No idea what he was thinking at the time. The anniversary spirit really got to him. As for the new banner format, well, it was actually just a regular legendary song banner with 12 featured units, but instead of having only one featured LR, it had two. So the chances of you pulling an LR were definitely higher. You had a 17% chance of pulling an LR every multi. Not as high as on a double race banner, but still very decent. And the yellow coin shop had every yellow coin LR up to LR Goku and Frieza, so that was also very good. The new banner got top grossing the very same day, just like the LR Super Saiyan 4s. So they gave everyone 30 Dragon Stones, 30 tickets, 4 diamond statues, 4 mysterious hourglasses, 44 story keys, and 40 coins. So yeah, some very good top grossing rewards. And I wasn't kidding when I said that they were very generous with story keys that year. A couple of days later, and the 7 Dragon Balls we got clearing the stages of the new Shenron event unlocked another event, where this time we had to fight all of the Shadow Dragons, and clearing up that event unlocked a new raid boss Easy against Omega Shenron. And the event gave us copies of a new Universal Spirit Bomb 3R Goku, his Easy medals, 50 dozen Kais, and enough potential orbs to rainbow a character of each type, so some decent rewards. It didn't give stones, but with the amount of stones that Anniversary already gave, it was fine. The Easy was also very easy, like you could generally just bring any half decent monotype team and you were good to go. Another thing worth pointing out is that the Shenron in that raid had a new super attack that we hadn't seen before, and that they actually never used. We thought at the time that maybe it was like the 12K super attack or like a future LR Omega Shenron, but I guess not. As for the new Goku, he was a sub-leader for the Shadow Dragon Saga category, a category that was so limited that I actually remember clearing that SBR stage with him as a leader, since you basically didn't have any other option if you didn't have physical Omega Shenron. He then raised All Allies defense by 30% for one turn on super, which was obviously very good. He then gained 12% attack and defense per key spheres obtained, an additional 20% attack and 2 key per rainbow key spheres obtained, and was a rainbow orb changer when facing a Shadow Dragon Saga category enemy. So that guy was very solid and a huge help for the Shadow Dragon Saga SBR stage. I do remember people not liking the fact that he was a TUR and a Fish Play unit. We really were expecting him to be an LR. Like, that moment was definitely like worthy of a summonable LR. They also held some sort of campaign where global players could help JP defeat Omega Shenron. It wasn't anything crazy, it just counted the amount of stamina used across both versions, but it was very cool to have the global version of the game be involved in the GP anniversary. And the rewards for that campaign were very good. Like, it gave 30 stones, which I guess were where the easiest stones went. So in total, this anniversary gave more than 900 stones, which was just insane at the time. Like, we never had a celebration give that many stones. Like, the 30th anniversary only gave 200 stones, so this was a huge leap, and the game only got better from here. So yeah, that was it for today's video. This anniversary is for sure in my top 5. It was just something else at the time. The vibe that anniversary had, like, I've never seen an anniversary have that again, but it's probably just the nostalgia here talking. Let me know what you guys thought of this anniversary, and I'll catch you in the next history video. Peace.